Okay, so I will just add another toot here about replacing pieces in your puppetry. So what we've talked about is going through Illustrator, making all the pieces in Illustrator, and then probably working with no stroke or no lines around the edges to make it probably easier with this, or you would do just lines in some places and then you test what they look like when they cross or don't cross ideally. Um, Otherwise, yeah, you would make just a very simple character like this. Obviously, there'd be more details, but just less in the actual lines around the edge. So you would have shadows, you'd have highlights, you'd have things like that, but not necessarily lines around the edge that would look strange when they're crossing over. If you've got a ton of lines and a ton of detail, you could give Toon Boom a go, but it is a little challenging not being in the same class as you guys and having to do it online because it is quite a complicated program. So see how you go, but I can certainly give you much more support in Illustrator and Animate. So here's what we have now. We've gone through Illustrator. We've gone through how to bring those pieces from Illustrator into Animate. Talked about just really simple movement with parent, child, and key lines and classic tweens. And now what we're looking at are two out of the three things that you can do with the pieces. So you can move the pieces, okay, which is all this stuff here. You can distort the pieces, which is this foot going up and down. But also what we haven't done yet is we haven't replaced pieces. Okay, so you might have 4 or 5 different heads, you might have 4 or 5 different hands. When you spin a hand around, you suddenly just replace the hand in a different pose. So there's things like that that you can add. So we've got moving pieces, we've got distorting pieces. So let's do another toot on replacing pieces. And let's just say you've forgotten to do it. Let's add it into Animate now. So I've clicked on there to make a new layer. Let's do a piece at the bottom of the hand here. So when it gets to a certain point, you can swap the hand to do something else, say. So arm, bottom, alternate or something like that. Arm, bottom, alternate. Let's lock all the rest and go to there. We will zoom in. Let's have, so when it gets to there, say, so let's position it there. Let's swap the hand. So at the moment, it's, okay, it's this piece here. So we could swap that. So there's a whole lot of different ways we could do it, but it's not tweened or anything in here. So we could really just sort of keyframe it in different ways. But anyway, let's draw it and we'll see how we go. So I'll zoom in. I'm going to use the infamous pen tool. If this doesn't fill, I'll pause the video and muck about with the stroke width and a few things like that, and we'll make it work. But in position here, let's do another hand here, just something different. So maybe you want like a hand that's all splayed out, something like that. Just changes position. Yeah, something like that. So when it gets to this point, it changes into a different hand, something like that. Okay. All right, quite a bit of thickness there. Let's see if this thing will fill. Hey, it's actually filled. All right, so nice big thick stroke just to make sure there were no edges here. I'm going to click a couple of times on the edge and get rid of that. Let's... It's being very strange. Okay, let's get into... All right. Let's use the eyedropper here, and we will drop it in there. Okay, so there's a swatch in there, which means that when I get back out here, go to the swatches, I can actually fill it with that color. Okay, let's put, whoop, sorry, we need it to go there, don't we? Okay, so we have a new piece here. Let's click on the piece and let's modify it for symbol, and we'll call it arm bottom alternate. So it's now a symbol. Okay, so it's a symbol like anything else in the library. We've got all of our pieces here. We've now got arm bottom alternate, which means that we can either just keyframe it there in separate layers, or what might be better is if we just trash, now that it's a symbol, we can trash this entirely because it exists in the library. So let's trash that. Let's get back into here and keyframe this in here. Okay. First of all, I'm going to keyframe in the middle and there, which means that this will go there and back to itself. Okay. What I'm then going to do is this in here. I'm going to click on that. So click on the old arm bottom. I'm going to properties. Go to properties. I'm going to do this, swap symbol, and I will swap it to alternate. Oh, hey. So that when it goes like this, it swaps. So that's a pretty rough way of doing it, but then you have this. Okay. So say he just wants to flick his fingers at the end or something like that. We have made another piece. We have found it in the timeline. Okay. We got rid of it in the timeline because we had it as a library symbol. I was able to make, I made it a symbol so that I was able to click on the instance of a different symbol and actually swap it through here and not have it break up all the movement there. Okay, so there you go. I wouldn't have been able to just swap that symbol in here. I wouldn't have been able to swap that shape unless it was a symbol. Okay, so that's an example of what you would do if you had, say, forgotten to add a shape or something and you wanted to add it in. It's also an example of how you would swap symbols and you would actually move pieces. So these pieces here, distort pieces, and swap pieces. Okay, so swapping heads, arms, hands, etc., etc. Okay.